On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport and was en route to Beijing, China. There were 227 passengers, 10 flight attendants, and 2 pilots on board, including Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, who was one of the most experienced pilots of Malaysia Airlines. The flight was initially uneventful, and after around 30 minutes of flying, MH370 crossed the Malaysian coast and arrived above the South China Sea. However, only 30 seconds after entering Vietnamese airspace, the plane vanished from the radar screen. At 1:21 a.m., Malaysia's air traffic control believed the plane was no longer within their radar range, so they didn't think much of it. The Vietnamese Air Traffic Control Agency did detect MH370 entering their airspace, but then it suddenly disappeared from their radar. Despite trying to establish communication with the plane for 18 minutes, the Vietnamese authorities received no response. They promptly informed the Malaysian side of the situation, but no action was taken. It was not until 4 hours later, at 6:32 a.m., the scheduled landing time for MH370 in Beijing, but it didn't land. The effort to find the plane began. This search is a huge undertaking. The search mission involved the participation of 34 ships and 28 aircraft from 7 countries, but despite the extensive efforts, no trace of the plane was found for 4 days. However, military radar later detected a signal from MH370 on the night of the incident. The plane was last sighted at 2:22 a.m., but the puzzling aspect was that it was not located in the East Sea as expected. Instead, it was found to be near the end of some islands to the west of Malaysia, over the Strait of Malacca, according to the military radar data. The revelation that the plane MH370 was flying north came as a shock to everyone, leaving many wondering where it was heading. Some speculated that it may have flown towards India and crashed into the Himalayas a few days later. However, new evidence from satellite data was discovered, showing that the plane was communicating with a satellite automatically, a common feature of modern planes like the Boeing 777. By combining this satellite data with the remaining fuel and speed of the plane, researchers continued to narrow down the last possible location. Ultimately, it was discovered that the plane did not fall into the Himalayas, but into the sea in an area called the Seventh Arc, which is 2,000 kilometers west of Australia. Numerous search operations were carried out in this area, both on the surface of the water and under the ocean, costing a total of $167 million. The search lasted for 3 years, but nothing was found. In July 2015, the first piece of the MH370 plane was discovered on Reunion Island, located east of Madagascar. The piece found was identified as a wing section of the plane. Later, in 2018, the Malaysian government signed a contract with the American company Ocean Infinity to resume the search for the plane. The company agreed to conduct search operations on the condition that they wouldn't charge any fees if they failed to locate the plane. The company was confident and professional in its approach, even creating a 3D map of the ocean floor to facilitate the search process. Despite the efforts of Ocean Infinity and the Malaysian police, they were unable to find any significant leads in their search and investigation, respectively. Several hypotheses were proposed, including the possibility that Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah deliberately committed the crime. This theory suggests that he intentionally disabled communications and rerouted the plane towards a crash into the sea. Evidence supporting this theory includes the fact that the plane changed course 180 degrees after entering Vietnamese airspace, which the autopilot cannot do, and flew over the border between Thailand and Malaysia. The aim is to avoid the radar of both countries, and a very important third point is that the police found a flight simulator at the captain's house, more specifically on the simulator. There is a path on which the MH370 itself flew for the last time. The second theory is that the plane was attacked. Police found 2 Iranians who had used stolen passports from an Italian and an Austrian. Both passports were stolen in Thailand. Why do they have to use fake passports? Surely to hide his identity, possibly for the purpose of approaching the flight. But then the police concluded that maybe they just used fake passports to go to Europe and find a job because their mother is in Germany. The third hypothesis, which is said to be the most suitable, expert said that the plane had a problem such as a fire in the cockpit causing many parts to stop working. The incident damaged the oxygen supply system, rendering everyone on board unconscious. The plane flew on autopilot until it ran out of fuel and crashed into the sea. The fact that the plane turned 180 degrees could be because the pilot was still awake and trying to control the plane flying back to Malaysia. But on the way back, the pilot lost consciousness and could no longer control the plane. The beginning of 2022, Richard Godfrey, a retired aerospace engineer, He claimed to have found the location of MH370. His approach is to use radio wave technology from Britain's Inmarsat satellite. And according to Richard's calculations, the plane did indeed fall into the seventh arc. However, the range he zoned was much more precise than before, only within a radius of 20 nautical miles. And the plane was at a depth of 4,000 meters on the ocean floor. Although search operations have been conducted in the area in the past, they may not have looked closely enough. Richard believes that if the search is restarted, the plane will definitely be found a year at the latest. A drift analysis was also conducted by looking at ocean currents. The idea is, if the plane had indeed crashed in that area, the location of the plane debris would have drifted along the ocean currents to reach Madagascar and the surrounding islands. So far, 27 pieces of the plane have been found, and the results show that it matches the location predicted by Richard. It's now been more than half a year since Richard released his latest analysis, but no formal search has been made. If it started early, the plane might have been found by now. Overall, after 8 years, all efforts to find MH370 are still in vain, but the analysis is getting closer and closer to the plane's location. We have to wait for good news in the future. The video ends here. Thank you all for watching and liking it. If you find the video useful, please give us a like and subscribe to the channel to show your support. Goodbye and see you again.